July 1, 2018, 9:20 a.m. A high-security prison south of Paris. One of the largest, most modern, and most secure detention centers in France. Hundreds of guards patrol the grounds, massive 17-ton walls lined with barbed wire and reinforced with armored doors. The courtyards are draped with anti-helicopter netting, and on all 4 watchtowers, snipers with assault rifles stand ready. In solitary confinement cell 207, inmate number 0010189 waits to be escorted to the visiting room. He is the most heavily guarded prisoner in the country. His record is staggering. Involvement in at least 30 robberies, some involving hostages, and one cash-in-transit heist that led to the death of a police officer. Twice, he slipped away from the police right at the scene of the crime. And 5 years ago, in 2013, he pulled off a spectacular escape from another high-security prison using a smuggled gun and explosives to blast his way out. 2 guards unlock his cell and pat him down. They find something suspicious, but it's just a pack of gum. Despite his notorious record, the guards like him. He's easygoing, funny, and likable. It's almost as if he's perfectly comfortable behind bars. 20 miles away, 65-year-old flight instructor Stefan B. welcomes 2 new students, Frederick and Julian, a father and son. They're both excited for their flight, claiming they just want to tag along and watch him fly, not pilot themselves. But they do request to be on board the Alouette 2, a vintage collector's model from the 1950s. The pair have been marveling at it, calling it so pretty. Something feels off though. Stefan will later recall thinking they were wearing wigs. But hey, money is money, right? They pay €500 in cash up front. Back in jail, the prisoner is escorted to the visitors' block for high-risk inmates. It's situated as far from the prison entrance as possible. Prison management has been on edge for a while, noticing a change in the inmate's behavior. He's received more visits and seems to be sending coded messages during phone calls. His casual vibe with the guards could be a tactic to extract useful intel. A couple of days ago, a drone was spotted scouting the facility from above. Stefan waits for his students on an open field. He's landed on the clearing because they said they needed to stop to pee. They step out and disappear behind some trees. When they return, they're armed. They claim to know his family and his home address. They say they've been watching him for months and that their accomplices are waiting at his house as they speak. If he doesn't do exactly as they say, his family dies. They'll tell him where to fly next. On the visitor side of booth number 50, the inmate's older brother waits to see his sibling. He has no idea that his little brother is about to pull off the most spectacular prison break in French history. The prisoner, calmly waiting for his helicopter ride, is Redoine Faïd. He's the country's most infamous criminal, a best-selling author, a movie buff, and an adrenaline junkie. To many in France's immigrant suburbs, he's also a legend. But to understand all this, we need to go back to the beginning. 1978, a suburb near Paris. This is 6-year-old Redoine. He's in kindergarten, browsing through a newly opened store with his brother, who's 2 years older. There's not a single thing in the shop the two can afford. Their parents are Algerian immigrants. The father works in a factory, the mother cleans houses. At home, the boys share a cramped 3-room apartment with 9 other siblings. The social housing block is surrounded by wealthy suburbs full of privileged French kids. Redoine and his brother don't fit the mold, and the store detective makes sure they know it. He calls them petits merguez, a racial slur for Algerian immigrants. But other than that, he doesn't pay much attention to them. Out in the parking lot, the brothers divide up their haul. It's Redoine's first theft ever. A couple of weeks later, he gets caught. His parents are furious, and his father whips him 20 times with a belt. His mother makes him promise he'll never steal again. Around this time, Redoine discovers the world of film, especially French crime thrillers and American gangster movies. He watches them on repeat, memorizes entire scenes, and acts them out at home for his family. By his teens, stealing isn't just about survival anymore, it's a way of life. He and his friends swipe TVs, stereos, VCRs, car radios, and computers. They use the money to buy Adidas sneakers and flashy tracksuits. But more than anything, they go to the movies, again and again. Then, at 18 years old, Redoine commits his first bank robbery. He walks in armed, holds a bank employee at gunpoint, and threatens her with a line straight from the French crime film Le Cercle Rouge. "Shut up, do what I tell you. I've got nothing against you." I only want the money. Think of your children. After the robbery, he simply goes back to school and studies for his high school exams. There's no one to scold him anymore at home. His father has moved back to Algeria, and his mother is dying of leukemia. He'll later write in his autobiography that from that moment on, he stopped caring. His crimes grow bolder, seemingly inspired by American action films. During one heist, he and his crew take a bank director and his family hostage. They wear rubber masks with the faces of famous politicians, just like Patrick Swayze in Point Break. Redoine even delivers a line from the movie as they leave the scene. "Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And please don't forget to vote." Another hostage situation unfolds 2 years later. Redoine Faïd and his men arrive in sharp black suits, a clear homage to Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs. They even adopt color-coded aliases: Mr. White, Mr. Blonde, Mr. Blue, Mr. Orange, and Mr. Pink. But this time the job goes sideways and they're forced to flee from the cops, just like in the movies. Despite these spectacular crimes, it still doesn't feel like enough for Redoine. One of his all-time favorite gangster films is Michael Mann's Heat, and after watching it repeatedly, he sets himself a new goal: the holy grail of robberies, armored trucks. An industrial area on the outskirts of Paris. Redoine is behind the wheel of a Renault. He spots his target, a 6-ton armored truck with 3 armed guards inside, and slams his car straight into it. Within seconds, 2 more cars appear, blocking the truck from the front and back. 5 men in hockey masks jump out, AK-47s in hand, moving fast, just like in Heat. They surround the truck, and one of them slaps an explosive-looking package onto the windshield. The guards step out and surrender. Redoine and his crew start emptying the truck, but there's a problem. There's simply too much cash. Moving the money takes way too long. After just 3 minutes, police are on the scene. Gunfire erupts. Redoine takes a bullet to the shoulder but manages to escape with his crew. However, he's left blood at the crime scene. Now, the police have his DNA and begin investigating his identity. If they catch him, he's looking at 15 years behind bars. Meanwhile, Stefan B. and his 2 captors land for the second time. The hijackers have 2 more men waiting on the ground. They haul large black duffel bags into the helicopter. One of them climbs in, dressed entirely in black with a hood pulled over his head. Stefan is held at gunpoint the entire time. Now he's ordered to take off again. He flips the ignition switches and presses the starter, but nothing happens. The kidnappers think he's trying to outsmart them and start freaking out. They beat and threaten him, reminding him that his family's lives are at stake. Stefan manages to convince them that he really needs to step out to check the wiring. Finally, the engine roars back to life and they take off again. The hijackers are well prepared. The duffel bags are packed with tear gas, smoke grenades, masks, AK-47s, and an angle grinder. The helicopter thunders toward the high-security prison where Redoine Faïd sits calmly in visiting room 50, chatting with his older brother. 20 years earlier, the Movenpick Hotel in Basel. An employee enters a room to prepare for the next guest. She has no idea she's not alone. Redoine Faïd has been hiding there for over 3 hours. Outside, the police are searching for him across the entire city. A few hours earlier, Redoine was arrested on a train heading from Germany to France. German federal police took him into custody. He had been hiding abroad for months, but when the officers escorted him off the train, he managed to break free. He ran straight across the tracks to shake the cops. A train roared in, blocking the officers from following. He jumped several meters down and twisted his ankle. Now he's limping. Somehow, he makes it to the back entrance of the Movenpick Hotel and sneaks inside. He finds several open doors since the cleaning staff are still working. He needs to get out of here somehow. He thinks about calling a contact in Strasbourg but doesn't have a phone. So what now? There's a payphone right outside the hotel, but he doesn't have any coins. Calmly, he approaches the receptionist to ask if she can give him some change for a bill. She places the coins in front of him, which leads to another problem. His hands are still cuffed. What if she notices and calls the police? Redoine keeps it cool, acting like he's casually reading a promo poster behind the desk. The moment the receptionist turns away, he quickly scoops up the coins. The first call fails, and he disappears onto the hotel rooftop to hide for a couple of hours. He tries again, turns around, and finds himself surrounded by 20 police officers. The next day, Redoine Faïd is at the hospital with 2 officers to have his ankle checked. He seems to be in serious pain, but it's all an act. In a fraction of a second, he drops his crutches and snatches a gun from one of the officers. He had trained in Krav Maga during his time in Israel, a super efficient military combat technique designed for fast defense and brutal disarmament. Before the second officer can react, Redoine drives his elbow into his face. The officer drops and Redoine takes his gun too. Then he runs as fast as he can. For the second time in 24 hours, he's on the run. You'd think a guy like that would be watched extra closely in jail. 11:18 a.m. The prison. A guard hears a strange noise, a low hum or buzzing sound coming from outside. To her, it sounds like a leaf blower. Weird, she thinks. The gardeners aren't supposed to work on Sundays. Well, it's not a leaf blower. The facility is prepared for this. The guard receives an urgent order over the radio: unseal the case. The same thing happens on other watchtowers. Each one is equipped with a special case. The guard breaks the seal and opens it. Inside is an HKG-36 assault rifle. She grabs it and takes aim. The helicopter keeps descending. The prison yards are covered with anti-helicopter netting. Flying in here would be a suicide mission. But this isn't a random helicopter. It's a 60-year-old vintage model, just small enough to slip through an unsecured gap in one of the prison yards. This isn't a regular landing either. In fact, they're not touching down at all. Redoine Faïd must have known somehow that prison guards aren't allowed to shoot at a flying helicopter. There's a proper protocol for this. And maybe he also knew that Stefan B. is one of the few pilots in all of France skilled enough to pull this off, to keep this specific type of vintage helicopter steady enough while hovering above the ground. Investigators will later discover that Redoine had been writing letters to Stefan's stepdaughter for 2 entire years. This friendship wasn't Redoine's only connection to the outside world, because at this point, Redoine Faïd was already a star. October 2010, 12 years after his escape in Basel, 8 years before his helicopter prison break. Redoine Faïd sits on a French talk show. He's a welcome guest at the time, a bit of a sensation even. He's written a book about his cinematic crimes, so now he's making the rounds on French TV to promote it. The caption on screen reads, "Former gangster." Well, not so long ago he was anything but. In late 1998, 3 months after his escape in Basel, Redoine was caught and sentenced to 18 years in jail for armed robbery. He was granted parole for good behavior after just under 9 years. Now he presents himself as a changed man, someone who has learned his lesson. He got married and his brother landed him an office job. He appears to be taking it easy now. At one point he attends a film event where Michael Mann, the director of Heat, is physically present. The very film that inspired his biggest heist. Redoine addresses Mann directly. Michael Mann looks amused but also a bit uncomfortable. He doesn't know what to say. "Oh, thank you for that. I don't know how to respond." In another talk show stint, Redoine is asked if he thinks he could ever relapse. "Never," he says confidently.